Welcome to Public Space, a community dedicated to supporting individuals who have experienced religious trauma or find themselves in between and are looking for self-God as well as community. We exist beyond the four walls of colonized religion. Here, we create a safe and vibrant space where members can explore and share spirituality, stories, art, and intellectual inquiry through critical dialogue. Join us as we embark on a journey of healing, self-discovery, and creative expression. Together, we will foster a supportive community that empowers individuals to reclaim their voice, embrace their unique journeys, embody a Path-Maker archetype, and find solace and strength in the company of like-minded individuals.
Welcome back to another public space. We are in the month of May. We are in Taurus season. Shout out and happy celebrations to all the Taurus energies. Myself being a rising Taurus, we are feeling the sun. It feels good. We are making bold, courageous, foundational moves. But while that is happening, we also have a full moon in Scorpio this month. Um, and so we're just going to touch on that right quick and jump into the theme of this month. Um, so just be mindful that this full moon in Scorpio, it really brings about things like introspection and transformation, as well as healing and release of things that are not serving you, empowerment through vulnerability, as well as community support is essential during this time as well, whether that be in this community or your other networks of communities. But this particular time right now, we definitely need to lean on our networks, our communities, because it's going to be very challenging. We're dealing with things that are really in our shadow, right? And this is happening from the micro to the macro. So theopoetically, archetypically, this this time with Scorpio, the energy is focused on the things unseen. So spirituality is a focus, getting those things in order that maybe got a little out of order. The things we don't understand, maybe this is a good time to, slow down and look into this, theopoetically facing your shadow in terms of not to conquer, not to kill, not to vanquish, but to understand. And the polar to lies and fears is truth and understanding. And so, this time when we have this full moon in Scorpio, it's a great opportunity to take self accountability, slow down, and really try to connect with yourself and be more honest with yourself. Are you really doing the necessary actions to achieve your goals? These kind of questions linger in the shadow or in the shadow aspects of ourself. And as we continue to journey off path, little by little, as much as we possibly can with the resources that we have, with the gifts, the knowledge that we have, no matter where you are on the earth right now, there is no shame, there is no judgment. Everyone is trying to pursue this off path journey or version of it for themselves. And it doesn't look the same for everybody. We just wanted to highlight that because in this energy, full moon in Scorpio, it's very easy for us to fall into self criticism and end up on a polar or an extreme end of it where we are critically judging ourselves. We're not enough. We haven't achieved what we set out to do. Maybe we know we haven't been doing things or making the necessary choices to, become better, and we are just scared, whatever have you. And maybe there's people around you, or maybe yourself even gets caught into the patterns of, victimhood, where you start victimizing yourself and making up excuses as to why you are hurt and why you cannot be where you want to be or be the person you want to be. This is also a state of trauma, and a lot of us are traumatized, if not everyone's traumatized. There's no one on this earth really that isn't traumatized, and the goal is not to be traumaless. The goal is to deal with our traumas in a way that we alchemically turn it into something useful for ourselves and as well as for others. And that could look like an art piece, a poem, a podcast, a book. You could do that at your job, just being a kind person. It starts like at that foundational level. Let's say, you're delivering mail or you're a barista or a server at a restaurant. Your position in your life is not meaningless. You can still become a path maker or your highest version of yourself, no matter where you are and what circumstances you are. What you're doing right now is just temporary. And we also wanted to reiterate and remind people of that. Your situation right now may seem very hard and difficult and even sometimes impossible, but it's temporary. And the crazy, crazy part is it's all hanging in the balance of you choosing for you. Not someone else making your choices, but you choosing for you. Everything, all that you want, all that you desire is hanging in the balance. And it's all based on whether you want to make that choice. No one's going to make that choice for you. Now, contrary to a lot of us who have been indoctrinated by early iterations, interpretations, and imaginations of colonized religions, such as colonized Christianity, then yeah, it's hard for us to reimagine that the choice is in our hands because we've been indoctrinated to believe the choice is exterior. It's beyond us. The King of Kings will make that choice for us. God will make that choice for us, and we just got to remain subservient and follow the commands and the laws, and God will handle the rest. Not saying that's wrong, just saying that hasn't really helped anybody because if it did, we wouldn't have the mass amounts of people who are religiously traumatized. It's the doctrine and the interpretation of it and the imagination behind it that is really harmful. And then how we apply it to one another. It's this process of just erasing people and then saying, this is who you should be. That's someone making a choice for you. And that's not really what we're talking about. We're saying the exact opposite. As a path maker or anyone in this community pursuing to become a path maker, you need to make your own choices. And this time season right now, 2025, excuse me, we have this ample, potent energy, right? And Scorpio, it could go one or two ways because they are very polarized by nature energy. So there is no balance during time of Scorpio. You're either going to take action or you don't. You either are going to set out to do what you said you were going to do or you're not. There's no, unfortunately, in the Scorpio energy, there is no in between. There is no balance. There is no space to harbor both. During a time of Scorpio, it's all or nothing. And any Scorpios in the community can relate. That's just something that they just can't shake away. They make choices this way. They think like this. The energy itself is like this. It makes people polarized. You know, and it's not a terribly bad thing. It could be used for good things too. And this is why we want to, share this because knowledge is power. And if you understand that the universe right now is having an abundance of energy that's going to make you polarized, the object here is not to fight against that, it's to go with it. And so we may feel uncomfortable, we may not like it, but transformation calls for us to be in these uncomfortable spaces where things ignite and take off. It doesn't come from these peaceful spaces, unfortunately. And so we are stepping into this energy in this time where We're going to feel in our own ways, in our own life, this Scorpio energy. And at the height of the full moon, you're going to feel it the most. And for those of us who know or have Scorpios in our lives, you are familiar with this energy very well. So just imagine it's a reluctant energy that you can't ignore. You cannot get rid of it. You have to deal with it, and you have to figure out how to deal with it for yourself, setting your own boundaries. If you're someone who is not organized, it's going to get crazier or it's going to get better. But the choice is up to you. And that is what we wanted to highlight. But this month we're gathering to talk about um, the path of transformation, because this Scorpio energy is definitely gearing us, centering us, orbiting us around transformation. And the Scorpio energy, anywhere you have the Pluto placement in your astrology, that's how you transform. And Pluto is associated with Scorpio. So, excuse me, just to make that connection, if you ever look at your astrology chart and you see what sign is associated with the planet Pluto, that gives you a better hint of how you transform naturally. And by knowing that information, you then lean into, a method or an approach, maybe even a career, or maybe even being in relationship with someone that has these elements. you know, you'll find yourself transforming fairly quickly, or lack of those signs that are in your transformation space on your astral chart. Then you see why you're not transforming as much, that you're avoiding, that energy that can just unlock that for you. So, yeah, this is just a quick glimpse of how astrology itself can help us better understand ourselves. And we are all agreeing that we are on this journey of self discovery. Astrology is another way for us to self discover, who we are. How do we naturally think or make choices and patterns before the trauma? Right. It's very important we understand that, right? Astrology does not compensate for the traumas that happen here on Earth, right? Astrology just says when you came into existence, the stars were aligned in such a way that mean, in a very complicated way, that you are this kind of person and you have this to offer either to the world or to yourself, or, whatever. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Just I know, do you have any feedback or any wisdom you want to share?
I would say to add into it, transformation is always ongoing. And, we have all these different kinds of tools. As you mentioned, like astrology is one way to help us kind of, in a way, stay grounded or just to be guided. We would feel it. It would feel, as if we're being shaken, or out of nowhere, we're making certain decisions that it kind of it makes us question, as if is this something that I should be doing now, or is this even true for me? So there'll be doubts in moments of transformation, definitely a lot of doubt, which can look like someone not moving forward, and this can invite fear into your path. But yeah, just transformation is always changing. It's there, it's necessary, it hurts, it's painful. But when we start to like realize, I'm guessing even reminded of certain things that we might be working on, or that we don't realize but someone else does, they can see the greatness in you, that you are in the like right track. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Affirmations, right? During a time where we're under transformation a little bit more than we normally are throughout the year because of the Scorpio moon, affirmations help us recognize that a transformation is personally good or bad, right? Sometimes we could find ourselves transforming and it's not good for us, you know, and we rarely stop to think about that. Maybe this is also a time where more people become addicted to things, people become more codependent. That is the darker shadow aspect and possibility of this energy. So yes, you're right. These affirmations reveal if we're aware or paying attention, or maybe even are we consciously looking for these affirmations, whether through symbols, sounds, but something to tell us, you know what, like you said, we're on the right path. This transformation is necessary. I got to do this. Or maybe I got to go through this to transform. Or maybe even sometimes we don't even expect transformation and we get it. And we're like, oh shit, that's crazy. Like that whole experience just transformed me. Like I think differently now. Like, dang, wow, I didn't even think about that. I know for me that's happened a few times. Walking into something or walking even into a season and having no expectations of transforming, just living my life, and circumstance after circumstance just start colliding. And before you know it, we survive the season. And on the back end, we're looking at in retrospect, like, yeah, I'm different now, you know? And whether that's good or bad is all relative, right? Because at the same time, me being different may offend people. That's a given. There's always going to be a group that says, I don't like how you transform. And then you're going to have a group that says, definitely like how you transform. You seem to be better, sharper, stronger, more knowledgeable, you know? But then you're also going to have people that say, nah, I'm not able to manipulate you and get what I want out of you as much. This is bad for me. And as a selfish person, this is terrible. Your transformation is not benefiting me. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Just that's how more or less how these groups are thinking, right? So if we know that that's going to be a constant, always, you're always going to have people that hate you, love you, like you, attracted to you, whatever. The list goes on. There's a spectrum, right? Because everyone has an opinion. That's the point. But the point is also that you cannot live your life based on other people's opinions. Because the moment you give in to one, you got to start giving in to the others. And then you find yourself in this endless spiral, out of control, just slavery, like heavy demand.
It's like you no longer see yourself anymore. You're just existing through someone else's kind of beliefs. So if you don't have that for yourself, it's easy to be influenced by something that your full self may not agree with. But at the time of not knowing, in time of vulnerability, like it's difficult to kind of see that for yourself. And it's interesting because something I was thinking about, and just like through my life, and because of my age, I'm getting close to my views, and I'm here thinking to myself, like, wow, like, why is it that around like late these or into like the 40s, like I've heard it so much before where people are walking into like their full self, like being who they were initially, like who they were trying to become, like working towards that around this time, it's like when it happens. So it's like we try to beat ourselves so much to try to convince others, and this is when we care too much about what other people think, to convince others to accept what we're experiencing so that they can let go of what they're holding, which is very limiting, and it makes them emotionally dissociated. So it's easy to grab on to certain things to kind of distract you. And yeah, like it was just something interesting that I was speaking with my therapist about. And, as Mother's Day is coming up and stuff. So dealing with that and just telling myself for years, I don't deserve Mother's Day. Like holding on to this heavy guilt because of the poor or, the lack of support I had, but the poor choices I made because I was so much in survival mode. So of course there is no thinking at that time about academia or things. So these boundaries or these walls that were put in front of me to keep me from moving forward, to really accept that even while things didn't work out to the, like the picture of being that quote unquote nurturing mother, loving mother, these were actually boundaries I put myself out of protection. So then the blame then shifts to, well, it's out of fear that I am telling myself, I've convinced myself that in order for me to move forward and accept who I was and where I'm going, so that I'm able to forgive that person in the past and then accepting the person now that's actually, like accepting, forgiving the old version. I'm not going to really welcome this new person into this new experience, which is myself. And so I'll deny myself, this growth, like as you mentioned, like being a path maker, like that is dismissed. And it's because of that guilt that's being held and then leaving this sort of feeling of approval to those you hurt. And so you want to be approved and accepted by those that you hurt. And that is the only way that you'll move forward. But then that then seeps into everything in your life. So not just being a mother or having to be in that situation, but in any kind of experience where you feel like you did not give it, like you were not that developed person that was intuitive, that was really thinking outside of survival mode. Like it's something that is, there's just so many ways to express this. But I think for me, it's revolutionary to understand that I'm not meant to leave my life up to someone else to decide what my future is. Even if it has to do with something that came at a great cost, which is the loss of a certain relationship. But that doesn't, take away from the person that you are becoming and have been becoming, the patterns you have been breaking down.
Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Waldron. Just want to take this moment to welcome you again to Public Space and remind you of how this community is dedicated to supporting individuals like you and me who have experienced religious trauma or find themselves in between or looking for self or God, as well as community. We exist beyond the four walls of colonized religion. Here, we create a safe and vibrant space where members can explore and share spirituality, stories, art, and intellectual inquiry. Join our newsletter,
That way you can stay up to date on the journey of healing, self-discovery, and creative expression. Together, we'll foster a supportive community that empowers individuals to reclaim their voice, embracing their unique journeys, and find solace and strength in the company of like-minded individuals.
Yeah, it's crazy because you're right. It's crazy because we hear so much of your upcoming book that, a lot of people don't know because you're so humble, but you got a book coming out here on Mother's Day, which is very significant, called A Wounded Mother, An Inward Journey of Loving Self. Now, this is deep. And we heard little snippets in there that come from your manuscript, and that's dope. That's amazing. Thank you so much for gifting this space and community with something that we believe will become not only revolutionary but foundational in terms of how do we reimagine the feminine regardless of your exterior sexual organ or your interior sexual organ. We're talking about these meta spiritual things that are beyond the flesh, right? These archetypical things, these patterns within our psyche that help steer us, that show up in the world through our choices, and as well as how we experience and process trauma and emotions. So we're not gonna, try to ask you too much about telling about your book because we know we're saving it for the press release and everything like that. And look out for maybe some commercials and stuff like that. We're definitely, I think I heard something the other day planning to do like a kind of interview style. So that would be cool to hear in the upcoming weeks, your thoughts as the author and creator of this book. How did you come up with this? Like, where did this come from, right? Like, it's not, and that question is not like, oh, this is strange and different. And this is like really interesting, coming from a space and energy of this is incredible. This is beautiful that you took your life experiences and you basically turn very complicated things into relatable things, right? In your book. And you're talking from this very, what I feel is a very like face to face, a very personal thing. Like you're not like distant, like you're some philosopher and researcher from afar, but you seem like you're one of the people. And we really love that like the way you express your relationships with your mom and even being a mother yourself, you make it so easy to relate to and digest. But is there anything you want to say about your book that adds to this amazing conversation and theme this month about transformation and the path to transforming that we think is highly relevant in your book?
Wow. I mean, where do I start? You know, I feel like even in the context of, transformation, this is something that definitely has been brewing, developing over the years. And I feel like not all of our voices have been heard or are being heard or are being understood. And so we can easily cling on to the perfected idea of what a mother is in relation to Mother's Day. And so where does this group, where are they? Where can these group of not, because the idea is being a mother, but then also having this feminine kind of energy in that, it's a balance between both masculine and feminine energy. So it's something that is beyond genders. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a male, but it's something that we all have within ourselves. We're not just filled with chaos or just filled with only emotions. Like there is one way and only women are emotional and then men are not. No, we all are, because why? We're just human. I think for me, I had to finally be brave enough to write something that comes from my deep core. Something that if I wasn't trying to attempt or understand what it meant, why was my root chakra just blocked? Why everything else didn't feel aligned? So in a sense, not feeling I don't belong, I just don't belong anywhere. And so really giving that space for individuals that have been severed or they've been so traumatized by their experience being a mother, being parented by mothers that have not been, really intuitively like just embracing that feminine part of them. And it's something that many authors, writers have been speaking about throughout years. And so it really does talk about like Lisa Marciano, and she talks about the motherhood and the mother archetype. But then there's also Bethany Webster that talks about, discovering the inner mother. So the mother wound, it's a very complex issue. And it's not just our daughters that are experiencing this because, as you can see, I am a daughter. My parents are still alive, but like it's not just something that daughters experience, but also sons. And so this lack of, or the absence of that nurturing, loving mother that's aware, it affects them too. And so what does that look like in the greater scope of things? Looking at our world today, things that are happening, as much as we want to glorify and just celebrate, like we have these heroes in our lives, a lot of darkness comes with that. And then we're not talking about those things enough. And so in times of, or in a day of celebration, there's also a day of mourning, and that is not spoken about. Like there's women, people that are just, they're reminded about that severing, that relationship that they could have had but didn't have initially, and then they feel guilted they were supposed to have it all together then. And then you fast forward today, and let's say you are transforming, you have taken the next steps to basically, give yourself this second chance. It's something that you give yourself. And you no longer expect someone else to tell you, I'm giving you the second chance. You got to do it for you at this point, because why? It ends up being about the self-love for yourself. And so enough with us being stuck and buried in this one, little plotted area here that is shaded. There are no flowers growing there. Something was planted, but what was planted, it didn't become fruitful. And so we need to come out of these shadows. We need to embrace that we did the best that we could at the time with what we had, with the tools we had, right? And that doesn't take away from the person that you are today. And that is the letting go of that guilt, of the fears. You have to now mother yourself. Like, that is the biggest thing.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we get you. We feel you. And congratulations, by the way. This is your first book.
My very first one.
Congratulations. Congratulations. And this is a big step for you because, like we mentioned before, you're intentionally publishing this on Mother's Day, right? Could you share just a little bit, like, what does that mean for you? How powerful is that for you? Is that some sort of alchemical process you're doing? Like, why Mother's Day?
It's a very good question. So, Mother's Day, because it's a very symbolic representation of this character, basically the mother archetype, and how not living to those expectations that were set by society, which is really what capitalism has pushed us, to believe that, these are the things that you do. You got to participate in, shopping and giving like the best gifts and things like that. And I don't know, like for me, like over the years, I felt like I started to realize like this doesn't make me feel authentic. It doesn't represent what I believe is being a mother or representation of that. And whenever this holiday came around, I just wanted to hide in the shadows. I didn't want to hear about it. I didn't want to hear Happy Mother's Day at all, or another way I should put it too, which if I'm expressing this, I'm pretty sure someone out there probably has felt similarly to me or close to that. But I used to have a hard time trying to find a Mother's Day card for my mom because I was just so like hyper focused in where she failed to respond to the choices that I made based on her lack of knowledge and awareness of her mothering, which, brings a lot of things like childhood trauma and all these things. Whereas like now I am able to speak with her. I understand her limitations. Before, I did not understand that. I didn't understand the limitations. It was just, well, you were supposed to. You were supposed to. This is what you needed to do. But in reality, we don't live in a perfect world. And it's not to take away or say that I'm not siding to say that what she did was right. No. What I'm saying is that as humans, there are things that we're going to do. We are going to hurt people. But then for the person like myself, someone that went through those traumas, I can now say, because I looked into certain things, that, she did the best that she could with the tools that she had, and those things were passed down to me. And so I repeated that cycle with my own two children. The only difference is that, after taking or not remaining in like that microscope kind of view, but more of the macro, I'm looking from the bird's eye view now. Like, wait a minute. I was really hyper focused on me, like on survival mode, that I was so selfish that I only thought about me. That what about these other elements, that are part of that scenario? Like now you look at it and it's like, now we're going to think about everyone else. Like this is a bigger problem. And so you don't remain stagnant anymore. You don't, because I feel like with this kind of mentality, we're slowly killing ourselves. Like we're racing ourselves to death, so to speak. Like we are just not really giving ourselves like that grace, to kind of have that compassion to move forward to motherhood, what that looks like. So then I think at the same time, like I'm hoping that those that do read it, and it's for everyone, basically. We've all been mothered. We have mothers. We are mothers. And that's beyond genders. Like we have these foundational skills, I would say. We have those foundational skills. And so we can come into a place of not feeling emotionally dissociated, feeling so numb, and feeling as if we don't belong. Like we shouldn't be part of this day or celebration, because you know why? At the same time, we understand that this is beyond just this one day. But when it comes to that day, it's just there's this feeling of, well, what about the mothers that at one point did, repeat the cycle? They don't get grace for, you know, growing and changing their ways, trying to break the cycle. So now you're basically leveraging between these two worlds. And it's not just solely focused with, well, I was never traumatized to that extent. I received this amount of love and care and nurture in my life and compassion. Now it's like, well, now you are taking this bigger task in your life. And so there's me, there's many more. There's just so many more. And I know that. And I know that. And, it doesn't end when Mother's Day comes up. It's not a reminder of the lack of mothering or the kind of mother you were. It's not a reminder of where you failed, but it's a reminder of, you know what? I understand. I did the best I could. But going forward, I'm looking at this and I know that I'm so much more than who I thought I was and what other people perceived me as because of the actions and choices I made.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. Before we wrap up, thought it'd be a good idea to also shout out another community member, Nicole Suarez. She's also publishing a book on Mother's Day, and her book actually is a children's book, and it's called Mommy's Magical Kisses. So we have quite a few people in the community already preparing for this transformational season with the full moon in Scorpio by launching these incredible creative projects and ways of expression on Mother's Day in 2025. This is no coincidence. This is alignment. This is synergy, right? Um, and we'll end with Aaron also is coming out with another book on Mother's Day as well. It's called Our Mothers, a meta spiritual analysis of the many who have mothered me. Interesting enough, me and Jasenia are writing this book together. She actually wrote some sections in there. But this book is just a way to express how not just my biological mother affected me, but like you were saying, Jasenia, earlier on, all those individuals who have played that role in our life and had these traits of a mother acted as, people who have mothered me. And, we wanted to highlight this and actually analyze it. This book, too, was a long time in the making. We actually paused this project for some months here and there because other projects needed most of our attention. But we were so glad to be able to line up, and we are honored to be publishing alongside fellow community members, as well as collaborating with Jasenia to write this book. And she brings a lot of what she's writing in her book to this book to make it strong in certain areas. And they really do feed off of each other. They're not in competition. They're just highlighting in different areas, but they're talking about really the same thing. So it was really fun collaborating with you on these projects. And it's been an interesting experience collaborating with other community members as well. Um, there's a few community members we are collaborating with that we will not let the cat out the bag just yet, but we are excited because public space has become sort of this hub where we can begin collaborating and learning and building together, and it uplifts people. It's not just about, Aaron and what Aaron thinks. Like, this is becoming like a hub, a place where most people can come to get help with expressing their things, sharpening their things to include themselves. And so we've been actually doing that under the umbrella of Lost Raven Studios. So that's been fun. So again, If you're interested, maybe you want to get into podcasting to express your own life stories or what you're working on. Maybe you're a professional and you just want to take your stuff to the next level relative to your life. We can definitely help you with that. If you want to publish a book, obviously you see we've been collaborating with individuals to publish their own books, their ideas. Some books are co-collaborations through and through. Some of it is just, collaborating to help someone, um, to help with their own ideas, and what they're trying to do and express. But yeah, we also, and we haven't forgotten, it may seem like we did, but it's just so many things have been happening in the world, as you may already know, that are affecting us from micro to macro. And we just had to shift fire, so to speak, and adjust things. But the Naked Journey podcast has not been forgotten. Me and Jasenia have been working in the background little by little, the slow and steady race to get, this project where we want it to be. We'll say it that way, right? Um, we've just been waiting on resources, weather, emotional availability, energy availability, all these things. We're waiting for this alignment so that this podcast can bring something that is not only helpful, but creatively evoking. It draws you to say, I want to think differently. I want to see something differently. So yeah, this summer we definitely will be shooting to pick that back up and start releasing some public episodes. And you may have already guessed it because that's just how we move here in this space, but there will be a book in the near future, from the Naked Journey, and that will be a really interesting book. But in the meantime, for all my community members, for all my path makers, thank you so much for the support, the encouragement in the background. We see you in the comments, no matter where you are in the world. We see you viewing the things we're creating. We see the support. We just hope, and we do trust, but we mainly hope that you are transforming to become your better self by just engaging with these things. These things are not meant to feed Aaron's ego, but they're meant for you as mirrors to help you figure out yourself and help you along the way. Um, and that's all we do here, man. Like we don't create things so that we could get looked at. We create things for the people. And that's why you'll start to notice there really isn't many paywalls, around. Like a lot of our stuff is free and accessible as much as YouTube and their attorneys allow our stuff to get viewed and experienced around the world. And we are deeply sorry if there's some countries or areas in the world you can't fully experience some of our work due to copyrights and what have you. We just hope that in the near future that can change and we can create a space where these kind of barriers and boundaries don't exist as much. We are working diligently to try to create something like that. But in the meantime, our YouTube, where you can find it, any streaming podcast platform, just like this podcast, you can find it. And we continue to pray and meditate and hope that everyone is choosing to take care of themselves as much as they can every day possible, working to build yourself little by little, right? The phrase goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. You need to look at yourself like that. It takes a while, right? But what are you doing a little bit by little bit every day to build you, right? We look forward to that day where you are built in such a way that you cannot be taken down. We really hope that you become your very best and use the energy this month from Scorpio to help catapult you in a relatively healthy and transformative direction. And on that note, we'll see you next month.